What's up, YouTube? I wanted to make a quick video about what to do if your spouse is having an affair or cheating on you, however you want to put it. I recommend reading the book One More Try by Gary Chapman. Divorce is not necessarily the answer. They did a study that shows that divorced people, more than half of them, end up getting divorced again in the future. And so the first response is, I wanting to break this relationship off. And a few points that they mentioned in the book is that your spouse may have emotional problems from their past that is causing them to have the affair. Your spouse may have maybe even some sort of psychological problem where they have maybe a bipolar issue or some sort of issue that they haven't dealt with. For example, it could be alcohol, whether your spouse is drinking a lot, and so that causes them to try to seek a relationship outside of a marriage. And so the first thing the book said to do was you have to confront your spouse, but not in an angry condemnation, ungodly way. You need to let your spouse know that you're not okay with what they're doing. And then they also said that to restore the relationship, it takes a matter of your spouse making the choice to break that relationship off, with that other person. And so you could be tempted. I just made another video saying that divorce isn't the answer, and you could be tempted to, kind of condemn your spouse and, have this unforgiveness, have this kind of hatred in your heart towards your spouse. But you're not necessarily guaranteed to find a completely different person that won't cheat on you or, that won't do something bad to you if you were to get a divorce or find someone else. Now, I'm not necessarily mentioning all the other points that I can mention about why divorce is not necessarily the answer. Of course, you and your spouse need counseling. You need to go to a trusted person that is not pushing you guys to get a divorce. And then also your spouse needs to get help, whether it be through a pastoral counselor or obviously a marriage counselor. But also your spouse needs to address the root cause of why they're doing what they're doing. Like I was saying in the beginning of the video, that it could be alcohol. It could be, some emotional thing that happened to them in their childhood. Or your relationship. The book said that your relationship had possibly a problem before the affair started. And so it wasn't just like, oh, this affair happened out of the blue. I heard it in another book that we need to speak kindly to our spouse. People sometimes commit adultery for the reason of, they have someone in their life that is speaking kindly to them, speaking tenderly to them, complimenting them, showing sort of this, it's not real love, but it's sort of a superficial, it's superficial that we know, but it's sort of, they're just kind of getting kind treatment outside of the marriage. And so the first response is, oh, I'm going to lash out at my spouse. I'm going to be bitter towards them. I'm going to yell at them. I'm going to call them names. That could be your first response, but that's not going to fix the situation, especially if you love your spouse, and just because Jesus said that, divorce could be a possibility if your spouse has committed adultery, he's not necessarily saying that in order to get divorced if your spouse committed adultery. There are times where we forgive our spouse. There are times that we have grace towards our spouse. And there's times where your spouse needs to realize that what they're doing is wrong. Your spouse somehow has it in their mind that, it's okay for them to do that. And so I really recommend a couple books, Marriage on the Rock by Jimmy Evans. And then I also recommend One More Try by Gary Chapman. Jimmy Evans shares a point in his book about this spouse who, it was a woman and her husband was committing adultery. He had a girlfriend and he was so open with it. He was telling his wife oh yeah, I have a girlfriend, and he would spend the night at her house. And so what Jimmy Evans said, he's like, okay, well, you do have grounds to get a divorce, and the woman was like, well, I don't want a divorce. I want to save my marriage. And so Jimmy Evans was like, okay, great. I can now share with you what you're going to do, but it's not going to be easy, And so fixing your marriage, whatever it might be, it's not going to be easy, but God is calling you to fight for your marriage and not just give into our culture who wants to throw away relationships when they go so bad. I've done it myself where, you break up with someone because of some small issue and then you regret it later and you're like, wow, I should have done that differently. So anyway, back to that story. Well, he said, I shared this in the Divorce is Not the Answer video, that he said to the wife that you have to treat your husband as if they are Jesus. And through that kindness that you show them, through that grace that you show them, through not being bitter, not being angry towards them, of course you're deeply hurt. Of course you're feeling pain, and that pain is very great. But we also have to lower ourselves. And he said by that, their relationship was reconciled because that wife showed kindness to her husband, and her husband broke off the relationship with that girlfriend that he had, and he came back and he came to see Jimmy Evans, and he got counseling, and they had a great marriage. They ended up having a great marriage. Even Jimmy Evans himself said that him and his wife, had a similar incident where he was not treating his wife well. And so just because your marriage is having problems, the answer is not divorce. The answer is not, oh, let me try to find someone new, or let me be angry at them. Let me lash out at my spouse. Now, the answer could be bigger than what you're capable of doing alone, and you need to pray. You need to bring Jesus into your life, but also check your own self and think, am I really reflecting Christ in my relationship? Hope this video was helpful. I really recommend going to a more, experienced person, which is, I recommend the book Marriage on the Rock by Jimmy Evans, and also One More Try by Gary Chapman. And you can also find those in audiobook format. Okay, see ya.